So I'm Deena Beverley, co-author of Soulful Stitch by Cas Holmes and me, Deena Beverley, and it is coming out by Batsford and it's available to pre-order now from wherever you get your books. You can pre-order it from me online, but wherever you get your books. And it has got, count them, 5 different chapters, and it has got a foreword by me about what Soulful Stitch means to me, and a foreword by Cas about what Soulful Stitch means to her, because it's different for everybody, and that's important to consider as well. And then at the end it's got quite an interesting one. We found this very interesting to write. How was it for me? Because how we actually, what we thought at the beginning of how it was going to be to how it actually was, going through the absolute cyclone that was producing this book with all of the things that we have going on, was quite different. But we got there, and this really is absolutely from our hearts, and it's subtitled Finding Creativity in Crisis. I would say actually we all have some kind of everyday crisis that we're living through and surfing, and we talk about how we have done that in our work, how we continue to do it in our work, and how we encourage people. Like a lot of people have been saying today, I really needed this. I'm really glad I feel seen. When people are going, oh, I love this work, but how would I do it? I'm disabled. Well, I'm disabled. I'm a carer for two disabled people actually. Cas is a carer. But we find ways of building creativity into our daily life, and we feel passionately that you can as well. Even if it's a few moments that you can do it. You don't have to do it perfectly. It's about giving yourself the permission to, even though you've got all that going on, to go, yeah, but I'm going to do this little thing that might not make sense to anybody else, but I really need to do it for myself, even if it is a couple of minutes of stitching. So there is a chapter in the book just about that called Pockets, which is about giving yourself permission for that tiny little pocket of time. It's just for your sanity, or we often say, holding on to my last remaining shred of sanity, got to go and do some stitching now. And it could literally mean while the kettle was boiling, just sitting doing a tiny little bit of hand stitch, like onto something like this, a little bit of cantha, because in stitching, we kept saying we're stitching ourselves back together. We're not perfect, life isn't perfect, but stitch is a very helpful way of coping with an imperfect world and imperfect life, and having a calmer time and a happier and more exhilarating time as well. So we do talk a lot about techniques and the whys and the hows, and that you can do, for example, we both do a lot of this laminating fabrics together as a starting point of making backgrounds. So we speak about how you can do that, because a lot of people today have been asking and saying, I see you love vintage, but how do I actually work with that? So on the cover, this has very much come from the starting point of this work. This was a triptych. This is my one, but there's Cas has done one, and we did one together. And it came from, the colours are of the Norwich City Football Club, because we're both Canary girls, that's the colours of the Canaries. It also speaks of mustard. But it started with this vintage 1950s bark cloth fabric. Most of my work, because I was a stylist for so long for TV and film, I just am obsessed with colour. I trained originally in textiles and surface pattern, and colour just absolutely such a visceral experience for me that, when I see something like this, I'm just, if it makes you do that, then it's meant to be. And so I will sit with something like this, and I could have it for 30 years, and a germ of an idea will begin, and then I'll think how to do it. So what people are saying is, I've got things like that, but what do I do with them? Is that then we do speak about, yes, how do you start, you've got these lovely things, how do you make them into this kind of expressive work, which needn't be a huge piece, it can be quite small. So this is, again, I wouldn't call it a project, but this is, I do a lot of botanical drawing to calm myself down. So these are these very layered, laminated backgrounds. When I'm saying laminated, I just mean that they are adhered together and with different adhesives. And when they're dry, they're nice and stiff, so you can embroider into them without hoop. So then I can free motion embroider into it and layer it up, paint into it, add hand embroidery, do more. So yes, there's the techniques of all this kind of stuff are in there. So the inspiration would be, people go, well, I've got, maybe they would have a rubber stamp or something like that, or their own drawing, but how do they integrate? That's what people are kind of have responded to, of, oh, I see, I can use that with that, and my grandfather's old shirt, and a drawing that I did when I was on holiday, and put them together like that. There's a lot on stitching with paper. Me and Cas both love stitching with paper. So yeah, there's lots of practical ideas in there. I've got something in there about rhubarb cordage. So, you know, peeling my rhubarb, and then I made the strings of the rhubarb into string, and then I couched them down onto an illustration. So there's masses of dense project stuff in there, because we're both, me and Cas, alleviate our stress by doing. We like doing. You see, I'm doing like this, doing all the time. You know, as long as I've got my things around to be sewing, you know, it's going to be okay. Yes, it's got 15 contributing artists that we invited for very specific reasons, including historical figures like John Crask and Marina Bulwer. And we took it very seriously how we chose these. And these are all people who have either, you know, who have really lots of experience of working through crisis, or they're speaking about things which are really complex and difficult to navigate, but stitch, they're communicating it through stitch, or they've found stitch helpful. Jake Annetts, for example, lost everything in a bushfire, and I mean everything, and he stitched his way back to something approaching sanity. We have Alan Brown, who suffered dreadful loss. He lost his wife and his father, and he's now famous for the film The Nettle Dress. He's in here because he spun nettle into enough fibre over, I believe it was 6 or 7 years, into enough fibre to make a dress for his daughter. Quite incredible. And yeah, they've all got their own stories, but the work, they've chosen for the story, but the work had to absolutely speak to us as well. So some beautiful work in here, too numerous to mention, but yeah, we both drew up lists, and we had so many that were in common, and then we have also got our own ones, but we drew up the list together, and so we're really pleased with the contributing artists that we've picked. And yes, so it's not just our two voices, there are at least 15 contributing artists' voices in there too.